Hello, beautiful manifestors. It is Olivia Grace, and I'm back with another video. And in this video, we're going to be talking about accepting yourself as God. This is for those of you who are feeling that pull away from doing techniques and having to take so long to get things, or trying and failing, or getting some things and not others, or just the overall frustrations that come with only partially accepting yourself as God or not accepting yourself as God at all. Um, this video is going to really, really help you. So, I have a really amazing, incredible metaphor to explain this to you guys. And we'll talk a little bit more about how to actually get into this state and be and create from this state. But before we do, I am Olivia Grace. This is the Master Manifestors channel. Here I talk about law of assumption, manifestation, all of that good stuff. So if you are into those topics, I would love to have you be a part of the community. Okay. I have my notes up here. So that's why I'm reaching up here. Um, okay. So let's start with the metaphor of you creating your world being similar to an artist creating a drawing. Now, when an artist is proficient in his skill, when he knows, like, I does this, like, it doesn't matter what the end picture is, I'm going to draw it and that's what's going to happen at the end, right? That artist is going to sit down and do his drawing, knowing the entire time what it's going to look like. Even though at many steps throughout the drawing process, it looks nothing like his end result, but he knows that, well, if I continue drawing it, it's going to look like that. If I continue filling in and putting this here and doing that there, the proficient artist is knowing that every number one, every step, every move, every stroke, every mark is correct. He's trusting that every mark is leading to the fulfilled picture, right? So he's trusting every move that he's making, and they're knowing that the end is a fact already, right? That this is already done. This picture is what is going to be, period. That I'm just expressing it. I'm just going through the motions of expressing that. Okay. Now, let's think about this in the sense of an artist who doesn't trust their skill and who doesn't feel proficient in their skill. So, this artist is going to wonder, can I even do that? When they think of whatever it is that they want to draw, they're going to stop and pause, like, dang, can I even really do that? Do I have the skill to be able to do that? And if I don't, maybe I need to stop. Maybe I don't need to draw it right now. Maybe I need to go and take a few classes and then, try and draw it later, right? So, they're at it for a minute and then they stop and go do something to try and get better at drawing, right? Which isn't always wrong. It's not always the bad thing to do. They're thinking, should I draw this though? Is it appropriate for me to draw this? Who am I to draw something like this? Right? Doubting themselves. This is the creator that is like, should I create this? Is it okay for me to create my reality? I don't, who am I to be God? Who am I to act as this wonderful artist, right? There's the artist that doubts that, is this even my painting? Is this even for me to draw? Maybe this isn't what, the art teacher was expecting me to draw, right? Maybe they're expecting me to draw mountains and I'm over here drawing flowers. Like, I don't know. Like, maybe the art teacher is really in control of what I draw instead of me and my creativity and what I want, right? These are the people that think that, well, it's just going to be how it is. And, your life is already planned for you, and it's all just fate, and you're just walking the path. You don't really have a say so, right? Now some of us are drawing two different drawings, right? So, and maybe it could be the person that's drawing based off what the art teacher. So you're drawing your mountain and then you stop and you're like, wait, should I be drawing this? I'm not really sure. I'm going to draw these flowers. That's what's really on my heart, right? And then you start to question yourself while you're drawing your flowers. So you stop while you're just at the petals and you're like, no, I need to be drawing the mountain. The teacher probably wants me to draw this mountain. So you go back and you're drawing mountains and you're drawing that. And then you're in that and you're like, but this isn't what's on my heart. And I'm going to go back to drawing my flowers. And this is you wavering between what you really want to happen and what you think is possible to happen, or what you think should happen, or what you think can happen. Right. And so, as you can imagine, you're going to finish a picture a lot slower when you keep drawing and stopping and drawing and questioning and drawing, and then taking, a few weeks off to go take classes, to make sure that you actually can draw this thing. And all of this is us, and how we relate to our manifestations. And what it comes down to is the drawer that is proficient, that knows this is what it's going to be, knows that, and is persisting from that knowing. They're drawing from that knowing that as I draw this, every stroke that I put, every mark that I make is leading to this full picture. The other artist that doesn't trust its skill and doesn't really accept himself as an artist, even if they are just as skilled as the first one, but they don't accept themselves as an artist. They don't trust their creative direction. They don't trust that every mark is going to lead to what they want it to be. So they spend time and waste time questioning and wondering and thinking, maybe this isn't even my painting to paint. Maybe this isn't my drawing to draw. Maybe can I even do this? They spend so much time wondering, can they do it, that they haven't even begun, right? So this is the difference between creating and accepting yourself as God and manifesting, is when you really accept yourself as the first person that knows, I'm the artist. So the drawing is going to be what I draw it to be. Now, that artist, if this artist knows the drawing is going to be what I want it to be, and what they want it to be is a rose, they're not going to spend time drawing daisies. They're not going to spend time drawing clouds because that's what they've always drawn, right? They're going to draw the rose because that's what they've chosen. And they know that it's up to them to maneuver the pencil in the way that's going to give them a rose. Okay. All right. So, how? How do we show up as this artist, as the proficient artist in our life, right? The first thing is to be as diligent with your thoughts as the artist is with its pencil, right? So I've said this in a few videos, but the more that I awaken in consciousness, the more that that like the higher level of consciousness, the more that I'm accepting myself as God, the less that I entertain bullshit thoughts, and the less that I accept old identities, old assumptions, things that, well, that's just the way it is, or that's just the way I've always been, or that's the way I've always thought, or I don't have any evidence to the contrary of this, so I can't assume anything other than this. Like, it's really me accepting that this world is nothing but what I say. It's nothing but what I say. It's nothing but what I'm assuming, right? And if that's true, you guys, because this is the part, you guys, a lot of people in the law of assumption are like, oh, I'm God and I'm the operant power and this and that. But here you are saying, but can I really do this? And can I really have that? And will it really work? And I don't really know. Right. And so you're the artist with the pencil, with the creative force. Like, I'm the drawer. I'm the only one drawing here, but can I really make it be a flower? I don't know. You see what I'm saying? The proficient artist is not going to spend any time drawing anything other than what he wants, because he knows what I'm drawing is what's going to happen. So you be diligent with your thoughts. Be as diligent with your thoughts as an artist is with his pencil. Stop entertaining things just because that's what it's been. That's what it's looked like. That's what it currently looks like. Okay? That is not acting as a master. That is not acting as the master that you are. The master calls things forth that are not as though they were. Okay? That is what you do as a manifester, as an alchemist, as a sorcerer. All right? All right. Choose thoughts, identities, beliefs that stem from love, joy, and abundance and truth versus scarcity, fear, doubt, and hatred. Okay? This is like levels of consciousness 101. Okay? If you want to rise in consciousness, you want to be choosing the thoughts, identities, beliefs, and assumptions that stem from love, joy, abundance, and truth, right? And so, how are you identifying yourself? I'll give you guys a little example today. For me, like, I was just, it was just the morning, whatever, and I started to experience some anxiety. I started to experience anxiety in my body, and my thought was like, well, I just have anxiety sometimes, like that's. And I realized in that moment that that is something that I accepted for myself. That is not a fundamental truth of me. I am not just an anxious being. Truthfully, I'm not an anxious being at all, right? I am one with the being that embodies peace that passes all understanding, right? So I'm not an anxious being. That is a story and an assumption and an identity that I took on and I have been perpetuating and continuing to believe in and identify as. But if I know that I am the artist and I am the artist and the drawing, right? I'm the creator and what's being created. Why would I choose to identify and allow myself to continue in the identification and in the assumption that I have anxiety, that I'm someone who has anxiety? Okay. This is just a small example. This is just something that occurred to me earlier. All right. So, what is the truth, right? The truth is love. The truth is joy. The truth is abundance, right? So when you're looking at your manifestation and you're saying, well, I don't really see where any money could come from though. I don't work at this place and, or I only do this kind of job. So I don't really see where money can come from, right? Well, you're still believing in scarcity. You're still believing in lack. Is that the truth of you? Is that the truth of God? Right? All the things, accepting yourself as God is accepting that what's true of God is true of you, right? God is abundant. That's clear as day in what world, like what the earth even is, right? In the abundance of plants, in the abundance of everything that occupies the earth. So, how can you be lacking if you really believe yourself as God? How can you be separate? How can you be alone? How can you, be unwanted if you are the all, right? And something I say is actually what I'm going to get into in a second is just assume your God identity, assume that you are, right? And I'm going to be real, it takes people a lot of boldness to make that assumption, especially if you have a lot of religious guilt, right? But it takes boldness to make that assumption. But go to your end of assuming yourself as God. Okay? But I'm going to get more into that in a second. So, here's the thing there are no requirements or rules except the ones that you accept as true. This is one of the key things when it comes to living from the God state, is knowing that there are no requirements. There are no rules, okay? There's no, well, you have to do this before you can do that. Even when it comes to accepting yourself as God, you might be thinking, well, there's things I have to do. I probably have to, part the sea or do something before I can just say that I'm God. I don't really think that I can accept that. But it is an assumption, right? The assumption and the belief that you are not God is also an assumption. It's an assumption that God took to have the experience of you. But the truer assumption is that you are God, is that you are all. Okay. So you're really actually taking off the false assumption of the identity that you've taken on. Okay. But there are no rules, there are no requirements except the ones that you accept as true. So if you say, well, the only way for me to get money is to go do these things, then that's how it's going to appear to you, not because it's the only way for you to get money, but because that's what you said. Okay. All right. All right. Now, how do we do this? How do we actually accept ourselves as God? Make that your dominant intention. Okay. Let me go ahead into the next point before I elaborate on that. I drew something here, but it's not clear enough to see, so I'll spare you it. But what happens is most of us that have learned about the law of assumption know at some degree or level, I'm God of my reality. I'm the operant power of this reality, right? And so, what a lot of us are doing is seeking to prove that through outward manifestations. So, we're saying, well, if I'm God of my reality, then I should be a millionaire. So, until I'm a millionaire, I'm not going to accept myself as God of my reality, right? I'm not going to accept myself as a God of abundance, as the one who can command money until I have successfully commanded money, right? Which seems logical, right? Seems logical to a muggle brain. But what happens is the identity that you're coming from is I'm not God. I don't really believe that until I get this 3D proof, right? But the 3D is reflecting your state. So the state that says I'm not God, I don't really believe that, is what's being reflected in 3D as not getting results or hot and cold results, or you're manifesting millions and you get like $100, right? It's reflecting the uncertainty in your ability to create, just like the artist, right? If the artist is like, well, let me draw a perfect picture and then I'll really trust that I can draw perfect pictures, right? But if every move that he's making, he's doubting himself and like, I don't think that was the right thing. Let me erase it. And I don't think that was right. Oh no, I messed it up. Well, you don't ever get to the point to where you can prove it, right? So you doubting yourself as God leads to 3D reflecting your doubt as God, leads to you continuing to doubt yourself as God, which leads to 3D continuing to reflect your doubt. Okay. All right. So instead, you want to assume and accept yourself as God fully with no proof, right? You want to assume your desire and accept it as done, as true, as now, with no proof. Okay. All right. Now, how do you do that? You make that your dominant intention instead of chasing desires. And I'm not telling you guys not to manifest and not to create. That is what we're going to do. That is what we're here to do. It's what we're going to do. It's part of being God. But not chasing desires from the identity that I'm not what I want to be. I'm not who I want to be. I'm not powerful yet. And once I get these things and once everything changes, then I'll be powerful and then I'll be who I want to be. Instead, deciding, knowing I am who I want to be. I am God. I am all powerful. I am that, right? And making that your attention, making that your intention to know yourself as God. When you wake up, instead of saying, well, how do I get this thing outside of me to happen? Right? And maybe it's not instead, maybe it's as well as, right? As well as how do I get this thing to happen? Start knowing yourself as the being that nothing is outside of. Instead of wondering, how do I get things? How do I get things out the 3D? Know yourself as the being that is completely one with the 3D. Okay? Not separate at all from the 3D. Okay? All right. Stop chasing outward validation and chase the inward knowledge of self. Chase the inward knowledge of self, okay? When you start knowing yourself as God, and when that is your dominant intention, is to know yourself as God, when that is what is leading you, all of the things that you want are going to happen automatically. Okay? So even chasing inward validation, give your desire to yourself. Stop waiting on the 3D to give you your desire. Give your desire to yourself first in imagination and allow it to express. Okay? So know yourself as God. Make that your intention. Trust your ability. Trust, because this is the thing, you guys. You're already God. There's nothing for you to become. There's nothing out there that you're just not, that one day you cross the finish line and you get the medal that says, okay, now you can be God. You're it. It's just, what degree are you aware of that? How much are you identified with the human and how much are you identified as the limitless being? And that's going to directly correlate with your experience and with your ability to manifest things. Okay. So I'm intending this prosper you immensely. I am going to be having a 4-week program that is all about knowing yourself as God. So if you guys would like to join, I will be putting it in the description. I will have it in the pinned in the comment as well. But other than that, I am intending that this prospers you immensely. I'm intending that you make it your business to know yourself as God and that you get to experience all the glory and incredible things that manifest, the physical things, not just mental, you guys. I'm not saying, oh, do this and just forget about manifesting things. It's not that. It's that you manifest things much easier, quicker, better, more joyfully when you start from knowing yourself as God, okay? So I'm intending this prospers you guys. I know that it has. And I will see you guys in a video soon.